We're all familiar with those terms. But the thing to keep in mind is this. It's not so much anything about the fat, it's just a molecular definition. A fat's made of nothing but basically carbon strung end to end with a couple of hydrogens around it, okay? So I have an unsaturated fat, a monounsaturated fat. If I have, carbon chains are huge, like 32 carbon chains, 64 carbon chains. Let's say I have a carbon chain of 2 because I'm not going to talk that long. So I have a 2 carbon chain, which would give me 2, 4, 6 open ends. If I have 5 hydrogens attached to that with 1 open bond, it's monounsaturated. If I have 2 or more open bonds, it's polyunsaturated. If I have all the bonds filled with hydrogen, it's saturated fat. That's all that generally means. Now, how do you know the difference? Do you read the labels? Do you do this? Do you do that? You can certainly read the labels, but the easiest way to do it is this. If I have something, a fat that's solid at room temperature, it's saturated. If I have something that's liquid at room temperature, it's unsaturated. That's the simplest way to go. So that thing you scrape off the top of whatever it is that you made the night before, don't mix it in and warm it. That's the saturated part coming out. Take it out, and then eat the leftovers in that way, and it'll remove the significant portion. I mean, some of the stuff that you probably pull out has like a layer of fat sitting on top of it. That's why you don't want to cook it with Crisco, or lard, or things like that, because you're putting saturated fat into it. Butter, don't cook with butter. Now, trans fat. You've all heard of trans fats, right? Okay. Trans fats are something that we made. Okay, they're not natural. We made trans fats. What a trans fat is this. If I'm a food manufacturer, and I have something that's naturally unsaturated, that's not very good. It's not good for me as the manufacturer and the producer of the food and the seller of the food, because it's not the exact same process, but everyone knows what happens if I cut an apple in half and put it on the counter. What happens to it? It's brown. Same thing with this fat. If I have an unsaturated fat and I leave it out, it's going to spoil. Oxygen will then bond with that open site and you'll have spoiled food. So they bombard it with hydrogen ions. And when a hydrogen ion finally connects to that open site, you get a trans fat, which is way worse than saturated fat. I mean, it's because we made it. With a trans fat, how do you know if the food you're eating has trans fat in it? Because all the foods say, this food has 0 trans fat, 0 trans fat. It's not totally accurate when you're trying to really watch what you're eating, because you can put that it has 0 trans fat on it as long as it has less than 1 gram of trans fat. So if it has 0.98 grams of trans fat, you can say 0, because it's 0.98. When it has over 1, then they have to put it. So when you read the label, which we're all going to start reading the labels, when you read the label, if it has partially hydrogenated anything, it has trans fat. Because the process of bombarding it is called hydrogenation. So if anything is partially hydrogenated, you just take something with a trans fat in it. And that's going to involve cookies, cakes. Think about it this way. Generally, it's going to be any dessert that you would make that you buy in a store. Okay? If you make the dessert, it's not going to have trans fat in it, which is why you can't make cookies and leave them out for 6 weeks. But you can go to Walmart and find cookies on the shelf for 6 weeks. Okay? I'm sure. That's why those have trans fats and yours don't. I mean, unless you made them with lard, then they're going to have fat in them. But that's the way to just look at it. It's partially hydrogenated. The thing that I'm telling you, though, is it's going to be next to impossible. It's going to take a lot of diligence to find something without something being partially hydrogenated. That's the hard part. A lot of people want to make sweeping health changes to their diets. I'm not going to have anything with trans fat.